Hello and welcome to How Are You Holding Up, a mental health podcast by the depressed for the depressed. I'm Chris,
And I'm Lindsey.
and we're here again.
Yeah, it's been a while after we said we wouldn't be gone for a while. But as you all know, life throws you some curveballs.
It always
So,
does.
yeah, we thought we would talk today about some of the stuff going on in our personal lives and just kind of catch up and talk about the goods, the bads, and the rest on our quest to survival. Happiness? Maybe.
Uh, maybe. Happiness is so not even remotely a goal anymore. I can't even begin to imagine it as a goal. It's just kind of a state that just happens every so often, and I just kind of like fold into it.
Yeah.
Uh, but Linz, let's start with you. You've had quite a number of changes lately.
Yes, I have. So let's see, over a month ago, I left my full-time job to
Mhm.
pursue my dream, which is to do full-time voiceover. So, and that's actually been going fairly well. I'm really lucky that I have a partner so that we can financially do this. I've been saving and
Yeah.
yeah, just going to give it a shot. And it's been interesting for my mental health journey because I'm I feel like I don't wanna say manifested, but I have at least pursued and gotten a lot of the things that I wanted. So, like, I wanted my own house, at least a rental, we're renting, but, a house. I wanted, just not to be with roommates, wanted my dog, and I wanted a cat, a good partnership, voiceover, and living in the forest, and I have all those things, but, my mind still isn't used to being happy. And it's interesting. I was reading something about this that if you're used to being depressed and you're used to being in survival mode, that you're not made to be happy. You're made to survive. So mentally, you aren't going to experience happiness, at least for a significant, like extended period of time. You're always going to fall back on like shaming or fear or whatever yourself into motivations. Like my motivational tactics to get myself going to audition, to go for a walk, whatever. I shame myself or I try to use fear or whatever. And those are obviously super toxic. And
Yeah.
I'm trying to learn how to be happy and allow myself to, for a moment, just enjoy the successes that I've had, which I've had a couple, and I've overcome a few things, and that should feel good, and sometimes it does, and I do feel proud of myself, um, but it's been interesting. So I have gone back to therapy, so I am going to therapy now once a week again. Hooray. And
Yay.
I have a lot more emotional energy now that I'm at home alone most of the time, so that's good, trying to figure out some things. And I mean, the idea, I know that being a human, you're not supposed to necessarily be happy all the time, but I do think that we are supposed to have moments and perhaps some prolonged moments of joy when really good things are happening in your life instead of like disassociating and not really feeling that intense emotion or like feeling really good and then the next day you crash really hard, which happened to me. So y- that's some of the stuff that's been happening in my life. How about you, Chris? How are you doing?
Well, last we posted an episode, it was before I did the trip to Oklahoma to
Right.
get my dad's things. I made that trip. I flew out the first Thursday in March. I drove back from Oklahoma to New Mexico, from New Mexico to Utah, from Utah to back to LA. And I made that trip in 2.5 days. I drove about 8 to 10, so I think 12 hours was the longest
Ooh,
a day.
that's so much.
It was,
That's so
yeah. I
much.
mean, I usually love driving, like, to an extent. There was something about it that I don't know. It was It was not the same kind of journey that I took back in September, where I just, wandered and enjoyed my time and got to see beautiful things. I mean, I still saw some beautiful things while I was driving, and I took photos that I enjoyed, but I I got home and I unpacked boxes of just boxes, so many boxes. Um, I ended up renting like a 16-foot truck because that was all they had.
Jesus.
And I think I filled up at least like 8 feet of that truck.
That's a lot more than you were expecting, right? You were expecting a few boxes.
I was expecting like a small garage, but it was a full size garage almost worth of like stuff.
And you
Uh,
didn't know this stuff existed until they messaged you?
about 22 years, yeah. I went
Yeah.
22 years thinking this stuff just either was trashed or in a landfill or in a storage. I didn't even think it was in a storage unit. I thought it was just trashed, landfill, or sold. Those were the
Mm.
choices.
Yeah.
And they were all there. Everything, I mean, the first things that I found just like opening, just like the first boxes while I was there, like I ended up finding one of his vests, one of his biker vests,
Oh,
and
wow.
it had all of his patches and stuff on it.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and that was I wore that I think the majority of the trip back. Um, and I found one of his practice swords from his work with the SCA, and I found, copious amounts of papers and letters and drawings and all of his art stuff. Books, so many books, a lot, another library's worth of books for me to go through. Um, of which some of them, I mean, I've just gone through a few of them. I found like 2 copies of the Satanic Bible, which I was like, this is all right. Let's fucking get this going. Like 2 copies of the Satanic Bible, so many books on like magic and fantasy and folklore and mythology
That sounds
and
wonderful.
it was, I mean, it's definitely been bittersweet at the very least, where it's like I found it was like a hardcover like first printing of the first collection of Neil Gaiman's Sandman
Oh my
I
god.
found in there. Yeah. I was like, "Oh, fuck. This is something really special." And I'm just like, I haven't even been able to get to it yet. I'm sitting in the pile of all the books because I'm like, I need to go through these and organize, and I barely have the strength to open the boxes.
Yeah.
Because I just don't know how to process something that just doesn't feel real. Like it feels like this is something I was, besides the fact that I was not expecting it to exist and that it didn't exist basically for the majority of my life. I don't know. Uh, it's rediscovering someone that I don't know,
Yeah.
like a complete stranger, but they've meant more to me than some people I've known for years. Uh,
Have you talked to your
it's
therapist
been
about
a
it?
Oh yeah, no, she and I have been slowly unpacking a lot of it, and yeah, it's there's a lot to go through just on that front, and that's just like, I mean, that was one thing. I did actually, yeah, speaking of, yeah, I've got a therapist again now, which is great. She's phenomenal. She and I have been trying to focus more on the root causation of like my kind of self-sacrificial nature.
Oh, yeah. We talked about that, the white knight syndrome, you mean?
Mhm. Yeah, a little bit of that. I mean, the white knight syndrome is part of it, but she's like, "No, no. It goes way deeper than this." And I was like,
Oh.
I'm like, "Oh." She's like, "Oh yeah. No, you've basically like you've been saving other people your entire life. You basically have skipped entire stages of development because had to be there for people who were emotionally compromised
Yeah.
due to, their own trauma. And as a result, you never learn to take care of yourself or that you yourself deserve any form of being taken care of. And yeah,
I could see
I
that.
don't. Yeah, I
I've
don't.
I've seen that at work.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, it manifests now at work because that's what I've got. That's
Mm.
what I have. That's literally the only thing that it's the only thing I've got. Um, Keeping me sane. And that's a loose definition at this point.
Do you feel like there's been
Uh,
any change since we last recorded in terms of mental health?
yes and no. Um, I don't, well, I had one encounter. I think we briefly talked about the hilarity of the last like medication shit that I had to deal with. I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast, but it was funny.
Brief
Where
summary.
my brief summary, my psychiatrist prescribed me a medication. I went to go check the medication, or rather the pharmacy that I go to. They called me and they were like, "Hey, are you sure you want to fill this prescription?" I was like, yeah, why?" And they're like, "Well, it's going to be a copay of $400."
Oh,
And I was
Jesus.
like, "Excuse me, what?" And they're like, "Yeah, no. This medication, they offer a coupon." And I was like, "Oh, that's cute. All right. Well, I go on their website, I sign up for their coupon program, and they're like, "Yeah, we could save you a whole $100 off of that." And I was like, "Great. That's still a $300 prescription
Jesus.
for 30 pills. Uh, can you do better?" "Well, there's Good RX." "Okay, Good RX. What do you got for me?" $80. That doesn't combine with the other coupon though." "Oh, so I could either take 100 off or 80 off, and those are my choices?" Dope sauce.
Mm.
So at that point, I basically went, "Hey, you know what's cool? Not being depressed because I just saved $400 a month on medication. I'll put that money towards therapy. That'll be
There you
great."
go.
Yeah. Fuck. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I'm pretty sure that I need to be diagnosed with ADHD. Since I've been alone, I've been noticing the telltale signs of it, especially for women, you know? And I've
Mhm.
talked about it on this podcast, but for sure when you're alone and you're the only one that's supposed to be monitoring yourself and scheduling yourself, and you're like, "Where's my water cup? Oh, it's downstairs. Oh, here it is. It's in the bathroom. Wait a minute. Why wasn't I in the bathroom? Oh, that's right. There's towels on the floor. These towels should go into the laundry. And oh, we're out of
Mhm.
soap. Wait, we have more soap. It's probably over the wait, what's this on the ground? Oh, it's a penny. Oh, I have a jar for pennies. I'm gonna go take it to and then it's like, I was supposed
Eh,
to wash the dishes and audition today, and I ended up doing a lot of little things that don't look like much of anything, but,
yeah,
that has gotten better. I've also noticed
that's
some
good.
emotional, like, how do you what do you call it? Oh, darn. It's like emotional regulating your emotions when you have ADHD. I'm
Mm,
gonna go into this later, but people have problems regulating emotions usually when you have ADHD. It can be something
yeah.
like an example I saw on a TikTok was a guy was like,
Mhm.
"Okay, I'm gonna talk about my emotional regulation because it just happened. I was planning a dinner for my wife and I, and she called me just now and told me that we were gonna have a friend over for dinner as well. And that sent me into an absolute rage because suddenly that meant that I had to figure out what other food I was gonna bring out, how I was gonna prepare it. I had to put more time aside, more emotional energy aside. I had all these new steps suddenly came out that he'd thought that he'd already figured out. And I experience that too. I get really engulfed in rage, and sometimes I get so frustrated and so angry, like I'll cry. I'll misread. I mean, this can be something little. This can be something that's like it's not that big of a deal, Lindsey. Like logically, it's not a big deal, but for whatever reason, it can just send me into a tailspin. So that's been
Yeah.
interesting when it's like, okay, I'm getting enough sleep, I'm eating well, I'm, not over socialized. I'm not over stressed. So what's the problem? Why am I having these strange things come up? And it's like, oh, maybe it's part of my ADHD. Um, so that's been like an interesting journey for me this last month and a half. Month? Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine.
So many
God,
little
I
things, like ADHD, it's not well named. It's just now they're starting to, for example, like ADD doesn't exist anymore. If you were diagnosed with ADD, you actually have ADHD. And people are like, well, no,
Mhm,
I'm not hyperactive. And it's like, well, right. There's 3 different kinds of ADHD now. There's like the hyper focus where you zone out a
mhm,
lot, and get really fixated on things. There's the hyper physically, you're moving, you're doing stuff. Then there's the combined
yeah.
where you have both. And most people have combined.
The thing that sucks too is I've been talking with my psychiatrist about it and getting tested to like actually diagnosed for ADHD. Yeah, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, what it's coming down to now is, especially after all the COVID times, one, you have to find a clinic that's willing to do the testing. Two, it's going to take more than like a month to fully diagnose. And three, your insurance has to take it. So good luck.
I'm hoping because I've already been diagnosed with ADD when I was in high school, that
Mm-hmm.
maybe if I talk with my therapist about it, we can figure out a way. Because I definitely need to be medicated. I'm hoping to take some medicine that's a very, very low dose or something that's just for a few hours, like Adderall. I think it's only for a few hours. It doesn't
Yeah,
last all
you
day.
can take. Yeah, that's what I take.
Yeah, and I was thinking, I could really use that because I just get lost sometimes. I just like mentally just I get lost. There's so much to do that I zone out rather than focus, and it's partial disassociation, but partial just like fantasy world. I'm telling myself a story and fully imagining it, and then it's like, "Oh, right, I'm on the couch. It's been 2 hours."
Yeah, the executive dysfunction.
Yeah.
It's a joy. It's the combination of like, well, I've got my things that I have to do today. I'm gonna get those things done. Here I am, getting those things. Well, they're almost getting done. I've just got to get up, and I got to go over to that side of the room. But this side of the room has got some stuff that I could do also. But once I've gotten through this stuff, then obviously I'm going to go over there and do that stuff. Yeah. What
Yeah.
stuff was that first stuff that I have to do? Oh, here's another thing I could do.
I
It's
get
as you
stuck
mentioned when
too.
you, yeah,
Yeah.
when you were in, finding your penny, putting it in the jar, but where was the water cup that you first went down to go get?
Yep.
Did it stay in the bathroom or did it come
Yep.
up and then you found it's in your hand?
And the most infuriating thing is the ADHD tax, which is
Mhm.
how much money have you lost because you have ADHD? I have lost thousands of
Yeah,
dollars probably because I'll forget to
easily.
pay a ticket. I'll forget to pay some, like I have a tax person and I forget to pay them and their bills will go up higher and higher the longer I forget to pay. That kind of stuff. Just like things that I
Yeah.
genuinely didn't mean to forget to do and I just didn't write it down on a to-do list or I've lost the to-do list and so now I owe $200 on a $25 ticket. That kind of
I
crap. That
mean,
that that's was the most
even
frustrating for me.
yeah, even the smaller stuff like how many groceries have you bought that have rotted in your fridge
Yes,
because
exactly.
you either forgot to cook them or maybe you were going to cook them but then you were just like, I don't really feel like eating that. I'll cook it tomorrow.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Oh
Yep.
yeah. No, there it's
Being in the middle of
it's
a sentence and wanting to say something and then just it's gone. It's just
oh yeah.
gone. I mean, it's a miracle that we've gotten this podcast. Honestly, it's a miracle that we have this podcast and we were able to sometimes stick to topics because I forget all the time in mid-sentence or when, like, you're talking, I'll remember, I'm like, "Oh, wait, I wanna say this thing, but I don't wanna interrupt you, so I'll just wait till you're done," and then, like, something you say
Mhm.
will spark something else in me, and I completely forget what I was going to say.
Yeah.
It's just gone.
Yeah. How have you been dealing now that you've been like able to like you're practicing more or less being like not being in survival mode, being
Yeah.
more in thriving mode. Um what have you noticed that you've been able to do now that maybe like you would have stopped yourself prior.
Hmm. Um, I've started to feel more, I think, love for
Mhm.
people in general. I have a lot more emotion that I'm able to experience. And
Yeah.
with my partner too. You know, when you're tired and you're running the rat race and you've got traumas that you don't even know and triggers you don't know,
Mhm.
and suddenly you don't have that anymore. At first you go through like a detox feeling, and then suddenly it's
Mhm.
like, oh, I
Yeah.
can sit and I can try to meditate. I would never have even thought about like sitting on a porch and meditating because I can't do that. I have ADHD. But it's been nice, you know. Allowing myself to try not to take things so I don't know how to explain this, but like just the general day-to-day stuff, like it doesn't
Mm.
necessarily always hit me the way it would have before. So, for example, um, if something like I crack an egg and it breaks and all the shells go into the frying pan instead of like sitting down on the floor and crying because
Mhm.
everything is just so hard and that was hard and now it's broken, I can just kind of
Mhm.
laugh it off. You know, like I have more emotional reserve, I guess.
Yeah,
Um,
which is
and
great.
and like the other day I was driving and instead of disassociating and just like appearing at my next place, I sat in the car. I was listening to a song that pumped me up and I just booked an audiobook, my first audiobook, and I
Yeah.
let myself feel like a badass. Whereas before I think I'd beat myself down. I'm like, you know what I mean? Like you don't let yourself feel good
Yeah.
for too long. Like, okay, yeah, like yeah, cool, you got it, but now you have a lot of work. Like now you've got to do this. Now you have to now you know, you don't want to tell too many people because it's going to look like you're bragging and nobody wants to have you know, that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
for the
Yeah, the,
yeah.
the breaks over mentality of like, "Alright, good times are
Yeah,
over.
yeah, yeah.
Time to feel like shit again."
Yeah, like in 5 minutes, you know, it's like, "Oh, I got 5 minutes of like oh, I feel proud of myself. That's a nice feel." Oh, nope. No, it's fear. No, it's gone. So,
Mhm.
I still struggle with that, but it is not as bad. And,
Yeah.
you know, I'm just thinking about stuff that I just haven't thought about. I'm expanding what I'm trying to experience in my life, and I'm always trying to do that, but now I'm so lucky to be able to have created a space, that I can have that, and it might not be forever, probably won't, you know, things happen, I might have to go back to having a full-time job and stuff, but right now, um, I have a really exceptional gift on my plate, and I'm trying to utilize that. So, yeah, and, you know,
Good.
going back to therapy, like, having the time to do therapy. When I was working before, I had an hour and a half drive to work, an hour and a half drive from to, you know, home, and then, you know, 8 hours at work minimum, and so
Yeah.
I didn't have time for therapy, you know, and the weekends we're trying to catch up constantly with laundry and dishes,
Yeah.
and so actually trying to have a nice space, that's something that I've struggled with. I think, you know, mixed with, depression and ADHD, it's really hard to keep a clean space, and,
No. Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like a space that's not just like
Mhm.
but like feels nice. It's like cozy. And it's like you're safe. It's like, oh, this is I could have people over I could have somebody over right now. Like that's never been my house. I've always had to have like a week in
Yeah.
advance to clean.
Oh god. Yeah, I've got, like, half of my usual office space right now is, let's see, there's a chair, there's a box, there's a second box, there's a third, fourth box, a laptop, a cup. There's a old typewriter that was found in our storage that I had planned to, like, clean up and maybe find someone to, like, maybe renew it, and nope,
Yeah.
it's just sitting there taking up space in my office
It's hard.
because 'cause
It's
I'm
hard
probably not gonna
when
get to it.
you know, your whole life is supposed to be surrounded by work, and I think a lot of us experienced it in quarantine. Our well, as you know, like the company that Chris and I used to work for, um we came back to work fairly relatively soon compared to other people. And so a
Mhm.
lot of people experience like what it's like to work from home and have all this time and like energy for yourself. And so many people are saying now I don't want to go back. But I think Chris, you haven't really had a large amount of time to really experience just like, oh, right, my whole worth and my whole life and my whole experience and my whole thought process does not have to be around what's happening in the office.
No.
Yeah.
I've actually, I don't think since the start of the pandemic, I actually don't think I had a day that I wasn't working really, or at least I mean, besides the weekends, I didn't have the pandemic time off, so to speak. I simply worked, and I
Yeah,
kept working because the alternative was not working, which meant I had to spend time with myself or spend time at home. And now I find myself in a position where I spend more time at work because I don't want to be home. I
yeah,
don't want to be here. I don't. I really, really don't. And that comes with its own combination of just like factors of guilt and
of course.
mm, like self-loathing and yada yada yada. So it's, I don't know. Kind of feel like I'm recognizing this episode. I'm kind of like, this episode's title is going to be changes, because there have been, just in the last 2 months, just so many changes on both our ends.
Yeah,
Uh,
huge.
Huge, fucking monumental changes that we're both kind of dealing with in our own ways, but in ways that we've also never experienced before.
Yes.
Like, these are not changes that we've prepared for, changes that we necessarily were planning on. These are sudden, these are new, these are incalculable in their scope and breadth, and we're just trying to do the best we can.
Yeah.
But
And that's all
I
you
don't
can
know.
do. I mean, Chris, you're going to therapy, you're trying medicine, you're working, and you're doing a lot.
And yet I'm still feeling like I'm not doing a goddamn thing.
Welcome to the
uh,
Mental Health Podcast.
Yay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
This has been a journey. I think I'm going to maybe try and listen to some of our older podcasts because I'm curious. I'm curious. And now that
Yeah.
today I got my first vaccine.
Which is
Um,
great.
yeah, I was nervous to get the vaccine. Honestly, I was nervous because I have a funky um body, don't we all? And
Hmm.
I was worried that
Yeah.
it might react weird to it. So, and
Hmm.
I had a kind of a weird reaction right away, but then it went away. So,
I mean, that was it the first shot
it's the
or
first shot.
second, or
So I
the
had like
first shot of?
shooting burning feeling under my armpit where I got it. It was
Hmm.
like I felt like I had rubbed Tabasco. And it went away after the
Mm.
first, 20 minutes after I got it, but it was just really weird.
So did you get Pfizer,
I got
Moderna, or
Pfizer. Yeah.
uh, got it? Okay, so you got the Caliente version, I guess. That's the only explanation for
Yeah. I mean, my partner was
hot
fine.
sauce.
He was like, "Oh, yeah, this I don't feel." He's not even sore. I can't even lift my arm up all the way. Stupid shots. But
S-
anyway, now that we're being vaccinated and everything, I would
mhm.
like to start doing our little experiments because I wouldn't mind getting another B12 shot.
I agree. Yeah, that was the funny thing. I got the Johnson and Johnson vaccine literally the
Mhm.
day before. They were like,
Yes.
"Hey, we should stop putting that out."
That's so
I was
awful.
like,
I
I was
remember you
like,
told me, like, "I'm getting the J&J." I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." And literally, not even I don't
the
even think it was
next
even
day.
24 hours because 'cause you'd gotten it, like, you told me in the evening, and then it was, like, the morning the next day. Yeah, yeah.
I felt like death the next day
Oh, shit.
already, and then they were like, "Oh, blood clots," and I was like, "Well, I can't wait to get my vampire boba on."
The good thing about that, though, is now there's a huge conversation going on about birth control because I don't know
Good.
the exact statistics, but birth control, if you've ever looked at the side effects, they're heinous, and women get blood clots at a ridiculous rate with birth control. I mean, it
It
is
was like one
tremendously.
in
It's like 1 in
Yeah, it
every
was like one in
10,000.
10,000.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's death with associated a lot of death actually in cancer, cervical cancer. I mean, the
Mhm.
amount of problems that come with birth control. So, there is a positive in this
Mhm.
nightmare of a scenario with J&J. So, it's good that they're being cautious about that kind of stuff, of course, and they should be, but also birth control
It's
should be better.
I was gonna say, it's almost like women have always been treated shittily by the medical community. I wonder how that's been the
Oh,
case for
jeez.
so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't even get me
obviously.
started. Oh my god.
Trust me, it's infuriating.
It's
It's
so
infuriating
upsetting
beyond all.
that I don't even like to, research about it because I have
No.
a hard time. It's just like, there's
Understandable.
nothing I can do, you know? Like, cool, so nothing is tested on women, basically, nothing, because we're
No.
hormonal, and there's so many changes that it's hard to have there's a scientific term for this, and I am not a scientist, and I can't think of it because ADHD. But when there are constants, so they use males because men pretty much are constant every day; they're the same.
Mhm.
So with exercise, with BMI, with medicine, with everything, they test it on men. They don't test it on women. So all
Mhm.
those diets, all those nutritional facts, it's not based
Yep.
off of what women need. So actually, it's really good to get like a woman, a female nutritionist for especially for older ladies. They're told to like do a lot of cardio and stuff, and actually they should be bodybuilding. Anyway, I'm on a tangent. It just pisses me off. It just pisses me off.
Understandably. It's understandable. It's
'Cause it's scary.
it's scary. It should be fucking it is terrifying because it's been as long as medical science has been around, it's basically been, "Ah, yes, men folk, we must do everything we can to help them survive. Women, they're hysterical, give them vibrators." And that's really all it comes down to. Like, give them vibrators or put them in an asylum. Like, that
Yeah,
was what medical silence
hysteria.
did.
Oh my
Yeah.
god. Yeah, I actually so again, I'm on TikTok, and I was watching a TikTok, and it was one of those things where it's like, "Tell me you're a woman without telling me you're a woman." And this girl's like, so one time I went to a doctor because I was in excruciating pain and I couldn't stand up all the way, and he was telling me that I actually had hysteria and that I needed to calm down and stop crying. I need to get my emotions in check, and I was actually about to have my appendix burst.
Yeah. Yeah, oh, yeah, no. God, that's fucking infuriating when it's just, like, something as simple as going to a doctor and having them, I don't know, believe the words that are coming out of your mouth as to the level of pain you're experiencing.
Yep.
You would think that would be, I don't know, top of the priorities, and yet, here
Yep.
we are. It's
Yep.
2021. You're just a woman who is in pain, and obviously it's all in your head.
Yeah, no kidding. I did oh, this is another big one. I had a doctor's appointment. I have not been to the doctor in years and years and years. I have
Yeah.
gone to, Planned Parenthood for, like, testing and stuff and, like,
Uh-huh.
normal female medical checks, but I haven't been to a doctor, and so I went to a
Mhm.
doctor, and I told her all of my symptoms. She's like, "Okay, tell me from the top of your head to the bottom. Like, let's just talk about all of it." Which was amazing because so many doctors are rushing you, but we went through everything,
That's
and she
fucking
was like,
amazing.
"Okay, I'm going to have a whole panel of blood tests for you because you sound like you might have either a thyroid problem or an autoimmune disorder." So, that was really exciting for me because I feel like, "Great, now we can finally start figuring out because 'cause I'm in a lot of physical pain, I have a lot of, like, random problems, and so especially if it's a thyroid issue, that could be part of the depression. So, anyway, that's an exciting thing I thought I'd share with everybody.
That is an exciting thing. Have you gotten the blood panels done yet?
No, I have to go do it. I had to make an appointment.
Oh.
So I made an appointment, but, like, I guess I didn't finish the appointment making thing on the phone, and I never got a confirmation number, and I was like, I planned the whole week around
Uh,
it. I go on Friday, last Friday, I, like, went down into town, which was, like, an hour and a half drive, and I'm like, "Wait a minute," and I wasn't supposed to eat or drink anything, so, I was super hungry and super thirsty, and then I was trying to find my confirmation number, and I couldn't find it. So, Wednesday, I will be getting my
oh.
panels. Fingers
Good.
crossed. I finally she started asking me these, like, very specific questions, and I was like, "Is it cancer?" And she was like, "No, no, no, I didn't even think that. I wasn't even thinking that." And I was like, "Okay." Because, WebMD is like, everything's cancer.
Yeah, no, everything's cancer,
And I have a
when
fear. I have a
on
fear of
WebMD.
cancer, yeah.
That's understandable. I mean, shit. If it runs anywhere near your family, yeah, that is one of the few things, medically speaking, that I'm very fortunate my family doesn't necessarily get that often. It's
Yeah.
all heart trouble. All heart
Oh.
trouble with us.
Oh, perfect. Heart trouble.
Yeah, no, our hearts just explode. It's all good.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Oh,
So,
something
I
else
mean,
on the question that you had
mm,
asked me was, you asked me what else I'm, like, allowing myself to do. I haven't been so in the past, I'm somebody who plays a lot of video games, a lot. I'm talking a lot. Like,
mhm,
I can do a full 13-hour day of video games, if not more,
sure.
and I just haven't been playing video games at all. At all. I don't touch video games, and I think it's because I'm more present, and I don't think video games are bad. I think they're important, and I love them
Yeah,
still, and they're fun to do, but I no longer have that need to disappear from my life and disconnect from my life, and I think that's
which is
big.
fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is definitely like those are improvements that cannot be squandered. That is for sure. It- like the only thing that I've been able to say that I could honestly say lately that I've been able to do that is I'm actually recognizing my own negative patterns at least
Hey,
and trying to like just acknowledge them instead of just beating myself about them.
that's huge. That's really, really
It's
big.
not
That
easy.
it is not easy. Oh my god, deprogramming yourself? Are you kidding me? We're literally in our brains, and
Yeah.
now we're being asked to be conscious of what our brains are thinking. Ugh,
Mhm. Yeah.
good for you, man.
We are just little we're just little spinning cogs in our brains. The consciousness part, that's just a part of it. That's just, there's so much going on in the subconscious and the unconscious and the I don't
Yeah.
know, future conscience. Who knows? Anyway, so yeah, I finally caught myself in a pattern that I went, "Hey, stop."
Can you talk
And
about
I
that
listened.
pattern?
Um
We don't have to. It's good that you caught it.
I mean, yes, it's more like it's such a it was more just the pattern of I I recognize that I've given up something in my life for the benefit of someone, and I was sitting there because I was feeling so much like guilt about it, about hating it and being resentful of it. That I wasn't acknowledging that I was still making a conscious choice to do something that was for the benefit of someone else,
Yeah.
which is still a in on the whole, it's not something that necessarily is bad for me. It's something I may find shitty now in terms of the situation, but I'm still on the whole doing a good thing, which I can't necessarily feel bad about feeling bad about it.
Yeah.
So,
I
yeah,
hear you.
it's convoluted and I still hate the situation and there's nothing I can do about it, but I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. So simple as that.
Listen to your heart.
If I could, honestly, like I'm at a point now in my life that I don't know what will actually actively make things better for me or make things happier, will improve my life.
You never
I
know.
I never
You
know, and
never
I
know.
but I'm not expecting anything.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I am by no means healed from depression and anxiety or any of the mental health issues that I have, obviously. But when I look back over the past 10 years of my life and I see the change and the growth and it's not just an uphill thing. It's not just like, oh man, I just from 22 to here, like I've just been uphill all the time. No, it's been down and up and around and all kinds of terrible mistakes. I've made terrible mistakes, but I've healed a lot of stuff and I've learned a lot about myself and a lot of it was super subtle for years. They were subtle and suddenly something happens in your life and you react in a way that's mature and healthy and you're like, "Holy crap." And you look back at what you would have done, maybe even 3 years ago and you're like, "I'm a completely different person." And you've had those
Yeah.
moments too. And you might not feel it right now and you might not feel it
No.
anytime soon. But I have all the faith that things are gonna get better, and there's all kinds of magical things waiting around corners for all of us.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
is very true. We have no idea what the future will bring, and honestly, we should not look on that with dread.
No.
We should look on that with potentially practical resignation.
Maybe
Uh,
some optimism. Maybe a little,
a mixed
little
a mixed bag of optimistic realism
There
where
you go.
yeah,
There you go.
not necessarily everything's going to turn up daisies, but sometimes you know what? There'll be bees and they will make honey.
BBs.
There will be bees and they will make honey. So while you could get mercilessly stung by a
Jeez.
swarm of bees, it's okay because one, that means the bees are coming back, and honestly, that's important. But secondly, honey's delicious.
And on that note, folks, thank you so much for joining us on this mental health podcast journey. We do appreciate when you join us and message us. It's a joy for us to share, and we hope that any little insight may help you as well.
Yes. Please, by all means, send us your messages. We still love to hear from y'all, even though we have been kind of a little crazy busy the last month or so or two, or I don't know.
I feel like since the
We're
pandemic,
gonna
we
do.
have been off and on.
Yeah, no, honestly, yeah, it has been. So we're gonna do the best we can, and that's all we can ever hope for.
We're
So we
shooting for
appreciate you.
100. We are shooting for 100, and we will see where it goes
Yep,
from there. All right, folks.
absolutely.
As always,
Don't
don't tell
tell
us
us
to
to
just
just
get
get
over
over
it.
it.